Welcome back for our video podcast for December 16th. Yesterday, Paul said he was Batman and I am Robin. We do film these things all at one time, and in our time, that was only a few minutes ago. I want you to know that I'm still very upset about that.
Yeah.
I'm demanding an apology. I doubt it's coming. So we'll just move on.
Yeah, it's not coming.
No, it's not coming. All right. So today is the podcast for December 16th, and as we work through Luke's Gospel in preparation for the fourth Sunday of Advent, we are at this place where we are hearing the story of Mary's preparation. You know, part of our work in Advent is to get ready for the birth of the Christ child. We decorate the sanctuary, we put out the purple paraments, we do video podcast, we do all these things hoping to prepare for the coming of the Lord. But we sometimes forget that Mary had a very real time of preparation herself. She is, she knows she's pregnant, she knows the child is on its way, and at that point, she can do nothing but wait. But she doesn't wait alone. And so she goes to spend some time with her cousin Elizabeth. And here's how Luke tells the story. Luke chapter 1, verses 39 through 45. In those days, Mary set out and went with haste to a Judean town in the hill country, where she entered the house of Zechariah and greeted Elizabeth. When Elizabeth heard Mary's greeting, the child leaped in her womb, and Elizabeth was filled with the Holy Spirit and exclaimed with a loud cry, "Blessed are you among women, and blessed is the fruit of your womb. And why has this happened to me, that the mother of my Lord comes to me? For as soon as I heard the sound of your greeting, the child in my womb leapt for joy. And blessed is she who believed that there would be a fulfillment of what was spoken to her by the Lord."
There is so much fascinating material in this relatively short passage today.
And it does occur to me, maybe there's also a shot across the bow to Zechariah.
Yeah.
Right, because Zechariah's there.
Yeah.
Right, and he can't say a word.
Right.
Because Gabriel said, "Shut your mouth if you're not going to believe me." And here's Elizabeth going, "Oh, and blessed, by the way, thank you for believing." And I wonder if she looked at Zechariah and thought,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the things when we studied, and we did it together last summer, we looked at the book of Acts. And as you know, Luke and Acts are a 1 and 2 volume set. Luke is the first volume of the 2-volume set, Acts being the second. And we renamed the book of Acts. It's really not Acts of the Apostles, it's really the Acts of the Holy Spirit. But that's a Lucan emphasis, both in the Gospel of Luke and the Gospel of the Holy Spirit, otherwise known as the Acts of the Apostles. And in this passage here, you see already an emphasis on the Holy Spirit. Elizabeth is filled with the Holy Spirit simply in the presence of the mother of the one that will be carrying the Christ child. That's a fascinating thing to think about, that the Holy Spirit is always lending witness. That was one of the things we learned in the Acts of the Apostles. The Holy Spirit is always lending witness that Jesus Christ is Lord. And
it's kind of a very Luke thing to have the Holy Spirit speak through Elizabeth and not Zechariah. And again, this is one of those things that shows up in Luke all the time, is the ones who should know don't, and the ones who shouldn't know do. Zechariah, the priest, should have known better. Elizabeth, the wife, should have not known anything really about God because, well, she's just a woman. And so Luke spends a lot of his gospel turning expectations, assumptions, and stereotypes on their head.
We are not told a lot, really nothing about the relationship between Elizabeth and Mary. But in my head anyway, I can see that Mary hears this news from the angel that you're going to have this child, even though you're unwed, even though you're a virgin. And you can just imagine Mary going to her parents as word begins to leak out into the community. Hey, Mary's pregnant, and she and Joseph haven't even married yet. I can just fathom that the heat starts to get hot in her life, and she decides, I'm going to go to a safe place, a place where I can go and Maybe she had this really close relationship with her cousin Elizabeth. But the scriptures tell us that she did go. She made haste to go. As soon as the opportunity was there, she makes the trek, which we don't really know how far the trek from Nazareth to the Bethlehem, Jerusalem area would have been about 7 days. You can usually make about 10 miles a day traveling like that. It's about 70 miles from the north of the country around Nazareth down to Jerusalem in the south, wherever that is in the Judean hillside. It would have been a very difficult journey even for Mary at this point. She travels down, she finds her cousin Elizabeth and her husband Zechariah. She enters into that house, and immediately Elizabeth says that the child that she's carrying leaps for joy.
Yep. And there would have been a significant age difference between Mary and Elizabeth. And I wonder if people weren't kind of looking at Elizabeth too a little strangely, like, what's going on with that?
Yeah.
And of course the word would have, people would have noticed that Zechariah couldn't speak. So the whole thing would have lent itself to being a bit of a spectacle around the local gossip circuits. Not that people gossip back then or now, but yeah, so it's an interesting setup, and the fact that what is happening here is so much bigger than Mary or Elizabeth.
Elizabeth is already proclaiming, "Blessed are you, Mary, among women, and blessed is the fruit of your womb." And she refers to the baby that's not even born yet.
I think you just said fruit of your womb.
Fruit of your womb.
Thank you. Yeah, let's get that right.
Blessed is the fruit of your womb. And you're
Batman.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm Batman.
Yeah. Whew. We've got problems.
Blessed are you. And she refers to the child that Mary's carrying. She says, "My Lord."
Yeah.
She references this fetus as her Lord. I just think that's fascinating that she already is drawing that reference at this point.
Well, and again, it's the key to it is the Holy Spirit is entered into her in a way that is significant. And the Holy Spirit is at work in all of this. I mean, in the church, sometimes we certainly talk about Pentecost being the day the Holy Spirit shows up on the church, but we don't get to Pentecost without the Holy Spirit doing work beforehand to set the stage.
We'll find out that John Wesley referenced both Elizabeth and Mary. He called them prophets. John Wesley said that they were both filled with the Holy Spirit. They were both filled, and that is the prophetic word. And
I think one of the things that I take away from this is God's at work in ways that most people aren't paying attention to. Through people others would deem as unimportant,
right,
marginal,
the least likely candidates.
And that yet here's God acting and to change the course of human history and he's using two women in the first century who would have had very little legal social standing in their communities. And yet here's the vehicle, here's the way that God's going to reshape all of creation. And it's not through the high priest. It's not through scribes, Pharisees, Sadducees. It's not even through Zechariah. It's through Elizabeth and Mary.
And that's a consistent Lucan theme that we're going to get into tomorrow when we look at what we call the Magnificat, which is Mary's response to all of this. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thank you for joining us today.
I look forward to that too, because Paul's going to perform a liturgical dance as he sings the Magnificat, right?
So it's something to really look forward to tomorrow. Don't miss that.
All right, thank you.
Have a great day.